Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why I think the state of Wisconsin is going to stay red in 2020. Obviously, in 2016, Wisconsin was one of the states that flipped from Democrat to Republican. Donald Trump won it. Donald Trump won Wisconsin for the first time since 1988, and that was a really big feat for him. Other than Michigan, this was probably the most surprising state that Donald Trump won in 2016, and now it looks like he's going to have to win it again unless he pulls off some major feat and wins some other states. But he's going to pretty much have to win the state of Wisconsin. And it's going to be one of the most important states if you look at the electoral math of it. First, if you just look at this, let's just assume based off of different scenarios, Florida goes red, Arizona goes red, and Michigan and New Hampshire go blue, and Pennsylvania goes blue. Then it comes down to Wisconsin. If it goes red, Republicans win. If it goes blue, Democrats win. That's the kind of thing we might be seeing because in this point in terms of the polls, Democrats are winning in Michigan with Joe Biden. Same thing in Pennsylvania. Same thing in New Hampshire. They're losing just slightly in Florida. They're losing just slightly in Arizona. But if you look at the polls here, we see in terms of Wisconsin, it's a tie. And these polls had Hillary Clinton up by many points, many more points than these polls have Joe Biden up now. Some of which even have Donald Trump up. Obviously, the Quinnipiac poll had Trump up by 7, and the same poll had Joe Biden in Michigan and Pennsylvania up by 7 or 8. So that's going to be really important. What we're seeing is that Wisconsin's kind of strayed away from the trends of Michigan and Pennsylvania. They are trending red in the same way, but not to the same extent that Wisconsin is. Wisconsin, we're seeing, is similar to the states of Ohio and Iowa that have trended really red really quickly, just like Indiana did in 2010, just like Missouri did just prior to that. We're seeing that these states are becoming a lot more red as you see the establishment Democrats aren't doing very well in the Rust Belt, and Donald Trump is the perfect candidate for the Rust Belt for the Republicans. Because if we look even in 2018 in the governor's race, Tony Evers only won the governorship by 1.1 percentage points. And that's a big feat because this was a wave year where the Democrats had a D+7 electorate or something like that. And they were only able to flip a state that they held control of for a very long time. They were only able to flip it by 1.1%. We also had a libertarian, Phil Anderson, getting 0.8%. You could give, say, 0.6% of that to Scott Walker. He's only down by less than a percentage point, and that's a really big result there because if you look at that, it's not going to be here, but if you look at the Arizona Senate result, the Arizona Senate seat flipped by 2.4% to the Democrats, and while that was an open seat, it was 2.4%. The Wisconsin governorship flipped by 1.1%, and that's in a traditional blue state. You compare it to the states of Michigan, we saw Gretchen Whitmer won that election by 10 points. We see in Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf retained his seat, winning by almost 17. And then same thing in Minnesota, we saw Tim Walz won by almost 11, just over 11, 11 and a half. But in Wisconsin, it was only by 1.1 percentage points. And that's going to be a really important thing to look at for the rest of it because we see in Ohio and Iowa, states that have trended red really rapidly in recent years. Obviously, they both went to Obama in 2012, and then went to Donald Trump in 2016, along with Wisconsin. Wisconsin, not to the same effect that Ohio and Iowa did, but what we're seeing now is all the signs we're seeing so far point to a Republican victory in the state of Wisconsin. And while it's not all good news for Republicans, we are seeing worrying signs in the state of Arizona. We're seeing worrying signs, obviously, in the states of Pennsylvania and Michigan. In terms of the polls right now, you would have Donald Trump winning Wisconsin and barely winning in Arizona, barely winning in Florida, barely winning in Pennsylvania. Trump barely losing in Pennsylvania and losing by a bit in Michigan. So according to the polls, Donald Trump would narrowly win. But in Wisconsin, it looks like, I don't want to say it's a lock, but it's pretty close to that because if we compare it, obviously in 2016 here, we see that Donald Trump was able to win by 0.7 percentage points. In 2012, Barack Obama won this state by 6.7 percentage points, with Tammy Baldwin winning by around 6% as well, just under 6%. And then in 2008, Barack Obama won the state by 15.9 percentage points, while also controlling the majority of the House of Representatives seats. And this, obviously, 2008 was a very good year for Democrats. 2012 was not as good, but still, these were very solidly Democratic states, and then we see suddenly in 2016 it flips Democratic, and we might say, oh, this is a similar story to what we saw in Indiana, where it flipped blue in 2008, and then it's been red, like ruby red, ever since. But that's just not what we're seeing, because we saw in 2018, which is a very strong wave year for Democrats. We see this is just the governor races. The Democrats flipped in New Mexico, flipped in Nevada, Kansas, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Maine. They flipped governorships in all of those states, as well as flipping senator races in Arizona and Nevada. Well, they did lose some in red states, but it was a very good year for them overall. They also flipped the House, but they didn't really do well in the state of Wisconsin. If we look at the House of Representatives results, we can see that in the state of Wisconsin, the Democrats did do well, but they still only control 3 of the districts out of 8, which means they still don't control a majority. And if we're looking at the 2016 results, the Democrats don't really do well in any of the counties except for the urban counties. See, we've got Milwaukee County here, we've got Dane County, we've got Iowa County here. Those are the counties the Democrats rack up their votes in. But maybe if Donald Trump can make inroads with those groups of people, he can do better with those groups of people, he'll be able to get the result that he wants. And I think that that's really likely at this point, because we see that obviously, I just mentioned this, but the 2 biggest counties go to Clinton. After that, you see almost all the counties go to Donald Trump, and you see Joe Biden might be able to do a little bit better than Hillary Clinton, but you also see the Gary Johnson vote did not do very good. We see if you give maybe 2% of the Johnson vote, that adds up a lot too. We saw the Evan McMullin vote here. That's what the other vote is, I think. There was a lot of that vote that went to Evan McMullin. They would have gone to Donald Trump as well. So there's a lot of factors here, and looking at this from a very objective perspective, um, I would say that this state is more than likely going to go to the Republican column. If we just look at some more scenarios here, we see, okay, Donald Trump even loses Arizona, but then, Donald Trump takes up Pennsylvania. And that would give them the victory, but it wouldn't if the Democrats win Wisconsin. That would make it a tie, and that would also be a very interesting scenario, which the Republicans would still win in. But at this point, we see the trending state in Arizona if that goes blue, as well as Pennsylvania going red, which is a real possibility despite it being Biden's home state, despite it also being a very traditional blue state. That could go red. Michigan could go blue, which I see is a very likely scenario at this point. And then Donald Trump wins Wisconsin, and he still wins the state. And you could even see Donald Trump wins Michigan, wins Arizona, even wins New Hampshire, wins Nevada, wins Minnesota. He can really get a landslide margin of victory, and I think that's something that you really should watch out for, because if he's able to recover the economy, we could see that it is going to get a lot closer than it is at the moment. Obviously, we're in a tough position right now in terms of the economy, but if he can rebound from that, it's going to be a very interesting thing to watch out for. Obviously, we haven't even heard his approval rating too much either. I can't really see any actual correlation between his handling of the coronavirus and his overall approval rating. So we're going to see how much the economy taking a downturn. We're probably going to have a recession. How much of an effect that's going to have on the rest of the election season. There might not be much campaigning either, which could favor Donald Trump in many ways. But yeah, this is just looking at an overall result, but more specifically at the state of Wisconsin, and why I think that it is almost guaranteed to go red in 2020. That is subject to change, but that is what I will say right now about the 2020 election from the state of Wisconsin. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always, and I will see you guys later.